Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Sean and Sack Show. Welcome, dear. Guys, good to be with you. Glad you're with us. We spoke at an event 2 weeks ago, a week ago.
Yeah.
10 days ago. It was last weekend.
We should just not
Wasn't
try
it
and
last
do
weekend?
dates.
Last weekend. Anyways, Saxy and I recently spoke at an event. I'm not the best at dates, as she is constantly reminding me of, because I just am not. And we as we were contemplating the episode today, what we wanted to talk about, there were a couple of questions. We did like a little mini podcast when we were there, because you had 45 minutes to talk, and you talked for 6,
Mm-hmm.
and so we had time, and we did a little episode, and it was great. And there were a couple of questions that came up, and one of those questions, babe, I'll let you share the question because it came from a female
Yes.
in the audience, and Saxy and I have been talking about it quite a bit the last week since this lady asked this question, and it's very, very applicable to not only the men and women dynamic, but the relationship dynamic. When you have two, what we will call for now, alphas.
Correct.
2 alphas, right? And I'm not sure that I necessarily understand or like the term alpha. We can try and define that or whatever. But masculine,
get it.
we'll call it. You understand what we're talking about? The masculine energy, the fire, the ferocity, the provider, the hunter. That's what we're going to kind of wrap up into the conversation around alpha. But this lady asked this question, babe, and I'll let you ask the question. And this is what we wanted to share with you guys today. This and a couple other things but anyways, you start us off with the question, and we're going to go from there.
It was dope. She was there with her husband.
Right.
She was really brave. She stood up and she asked a question. She said, I've got this fiery, fierce, feminine energy. And she goes, when I get into situations of conflict with my husband, she goes, we end up battling. And, she was talking about like trying not to kill him, or I don't know if you were saying
she's
that
like,
came up.
something about literally like, I it's everything that I have to not kill him.
Yeah.
And I get that. She's not like literally going to kill him.
Sure. It's feisty. It's fierce.
2
It's fiery.
fire, red personalities, fierce personalities, right? And I think finish the question.
Yes.
We'll go. I'm excited about this one.
I know. So the minute she started speaking about this is, if you've ever dove into, which I have done lengths of research on this, is energies. You've got feminine, masculine. All of us have both. Now, the feminine is not going to be in that space. That is her masculine that she's identifying as her feminine, right? And that was my first thought is, so when you have, it's just like a magnet. If you take magnets and you try to put both the positives together, it's not going to work, right?
Did you finish your question? We're like on a fucking freight train right now.
We're like
flying.
on a roll.
We haven't even started
so
consuming caffeine. Start with your question. I don't know. Maybe you did. I don't know. There's nobody here to confirm. Finish your question so that we know what the fuck we're talking about.
A little asterisk.
Jesus Christ.
We didn't sleep very much last night. So this might be a really comical episode.
This is good. We're already on a roll. Fuck. We're 2 minutes in and we're already like all over the goddamn
2
place.
hours of sleep and we would have some fiery podcast. So the question was, she said, how do I, it was basically, how do I not kill him? How do I work with him? How do we resolve when we get stuck in this tension block?
She talked a little bit too about how she's always been the provider. They were recently married. They're older.
Yes.
They're in the probably 40s, late 40s. She's like, we've only been married. I think they said they've been married for maybe like a year and a half.
Yep.
But she had been on her own for a long time. She prefaced the question by saying, I've been on my own. I've produced for myself. I've taken care of myself.
Yep.
I've got a lot of the alpha. I've got a lot of the masculine. Now I'm here with this dude. And here we are, and like I literally want to cut his balls off and kill him when we get to this place.
She's not alone.
No,
I mean,
that's why we wanted to talk about this.
I've been that archetype too. There are so many of that type of women out in the world because of the way that our society has been for a long time. Like, women have been put in a place where they have to step in and take on masculine roles, and it's not really what we're best at. But this whole boss babe, female entrepreneur, like, we're really in this driving force, which is great. There's a lot of power in that, but we hear this, we've been this, you step into that where you have 2 like people, and it's like, how do we dance together? How do we choreograph our dance to where we flow and it's pretty to watch or pretty to be a part of? So yeah, that was really cool with them, is she really wanted to know. And I loved that she asked that question, because that was, I mean, I think that a lot of people are struggling with this, like I said. So back to the
maybe
magnets.
not even struggling, but a lot of people are in this situation where you have a man who's a provider. He's got a job. Maybe he's an entrepreneur. He's out there hunting, killing the buffalo, doing the deal. And, you know, maybe you're a female who has been on her own, divorced, had to, you know, kill her own food, kind of a deal, go out and like legitimately produce, single mom, working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 5 jobs, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you have to take on that alpha.
Right.
You have to put on that mask, if you will, or you have to, no, let me take that back. Not mask.
Yeah, no.
You have to produce more of that alpha and bring more of that masculine energy out of there. So I don't think it's something people are struggling with. I think that it's a very, very, very interesting balance and a game that we're all playing. Because you and I, you're the most masculine person I've ever been with. Yeah. Without question. Hands down. Like by 10,000 times, you were without question the most masculine person that I've ever been with. But you're also the most feminine. You're also the most feminine, which is, I think, a really, really, really beautiful mix, because both of the masculine and the feminine with you are healthy. Right. And that's something that you talked, and I want you to keep going with that. But I just want to preface that by saying this isn't something where a woman being masculine is a bad thing. No, or, heavens no. Or needing to have this right or wrong, good or bad conversation. It's a really, really, really interesting thing that you and I have been building over the last year, is understanding the dynamics of the two. And so this lady asked this beautiful question, which is like, yo, we're newlyweds. We're both running, gunning. Like, how do we do this shit? Yeah. And I so relate to this. When I first stepped in this relationship with you, I didn't truly know how to surrender my masculine and really embrace my feminine. And because, you know, I never had a safe space. And the word safety, we're going to use time and time again through this podcast, is the feminine. It's like a flower, right? In order to blossom and open, it truly has to feel safe and protected, right? So the masculine is very protecting and providing, and it's a source of grounding and strength, right? So the feminine, when women are in this high producing mode, and I'm going to speak masculine. To me, like, my feminine was completely suffocated. I even actually went through a mourning process when I realized how disconnected I was from my feminine side, because I'd never been in a place of true, I'd never really had the opportunity, I guess, because being a single mom for so long, running multiple businesses, being the head of those businesses, there's very little time where I could step back and just fully embrace being in my feminine. And so this is the thing that I am so passionate about. And it's beautiful, because like with you and I, with discovering this, we had a lot of speed bumps. Yeah, we still do. We do. Because I'm so quick. I'm so quick to go to masculine, because it's my most familiar place to be. I can take care of myself. It's when I've learned to, well, how do I do this partnership? How do I? And so with her asking that question, it was like, I was so grateful that she asked that. And really identifying that if you do have a very masculine man, or a man, because a lot of men aren't in their masculine. We watched the Tony Robbins thing, and he pinpointed this couple on there, and he was like, this man has got this damaged feminine, and he's just not showing up masculine. And that also is really hard for women, because if their man's not in his healthy masculine energy and living that, she's not going to feel safe to not be in her masculine. And this is where a lot of these conflicts and relationships have happened, where the women step in and they're the driver. They're really making things happen, because the man in their life has not stepped into this power role in a healthy way. And so she doesn't feel safe. So she takes over that. And it's easy to be fixed, but you have to have a great amount of awareness, which is what you and I exercise constantly, and we talk through it. Well, this is why I say health and having it be healthy, because we could go down a rabbit hole really fucking deep with what you just said about the man and the woman, and this being suffocated or that being suffocated. But something that I want you to share, which you shared with her, you know, about safety and feeling safe in that space. You know, the idea and the notion that I have to be one or the other, you have to be one or the other, and that's the only place that we are. I have found myself far more comfortable being in my feminine space, if you will. You know, and a lot of people think feminine space is weakness or softness. That's like the exact fucking opposite, right? There's a lot of power in femininity.
Oh my gosh,
and the ability to truly understand that reality. For me, surrendering, right? Something that I appreciate and have brought forth, you've helped me bring more of this out, is being able to be safe, being in that feminine space, you knowing that I'm going to go kill the buffalo, but there are times where I want to surrender like all of the power, if you will, to you.
Yeah.
And like the moments where I just like the other night, I'm just laying in bed and I'm just like laying on you, right? And you're just tickling my head and I'm like a little kid and you like have the control in that space.
Your
like,
armor is off.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there that isn't possible, number one, but number two, that it's not how it's supposed to be. And I would have people consider that the more I can show up in my healthy masculine and feminine, it allows you, it I don't like the word allows, but it shows you that you can be safe where you need to be. When I can take care of shit, paying the bills, bringing home the buffalo, taking care of my own emotional needs, showing the fuck up for myself, right? Then you don't have to be that.
Absolutely.
You can not be the driver, the head of the household, needing to do all of those things because you know that I've got that. And vice versa. I also know that like when something goes sideways or when you go someplace, you have the ability to take care of yourself through the masculine or the feminine energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And also what I touched on with her too is if you truly love and trust your spouse, which I hope you do, I hope you truly love and trust that they've got you. You're on the same team in these conflicts. It should never be you two with battling each other. There's a problem at stake, or there's a problem at hand, not stake, right in front of you. If you don't turn towards each other and connect and trust that the other, truly build trust by giving trust. Like if there's a conflict, instead of trying to micromanage through scarcity, show up and support your partner saying, I trust that you've got this and I'm here with you. Instead of going to scarcity where the battle happens, which she was referencing, because if she's in her masculine and he's in her masculine, or he's in his masculine and they want to battle, there's an issue there of like, why are you fighting each other? And the end all, and this is my belief, is it has to be 51%, 49. There has to be one person that you guys agree that's final say. And you just trust that. Like, because if not, you'll fight and you'll fight and you'll fight. There has to be that majority person and that's you. I will say that all day long, and I'm okay with that because I trust you. I trust that even if I feel very strongly about something and I voice it to you, and if you still are going to go the other direction, I will support you.
Here's what's interesting about that. And I don't know that I don't want to say that I agree or disagree with the 51-49, but the visual, I love visuals. I love like visualizing something. And I wanted to share this with people. Like when you talk about being in conflict, right? And this lady's thing was, when we're in conflict, we just fucking rage. It's two alphas just trying to kick the shit out of each other and the whole thing, which no one wins there, right? There's no resolution. There's no solution. And what I have found in relationships in the history in the past is we do one of two things when we're in conflict. Okay. Now let's just talk about conflict with masculine and feminine. We either turn away from each other. And so literally imagine, you remember that there was that Burning Man art piece where like the two adults were facing the opposite way, right? Back to back. We've got our arms folded. I'm looking over here. You're looking over here. And if you really think about that visual, like the one person is waiting for the other person to like, okay, let me turn towards you, figure you out while you have your back to me.
And they're two little inner children are trying to connect.
Literally, you're making assumptions. You're taking shit personally. You're doing everything against the four agreements. But imagine literally for a second, and it doesn't matter if you're masculine, feminine, whichever one you're playing ball with the most right now. When you're in conflict, we're either turning away from each other, and you're back to back, and you're literally waiting for the other person to come save you, come make the first move, do the first deal, right? Say this, say that. And then maybe if you push the right buttons or buy me the right shit or do the right thing, then maybe I'll turn towards you. I lived a lot of my relationship in the past in that regard.
Yeah.
It's pouting. You're literally fucking pouting. You're folding your arms, turning away from your person, saying, well, I'm pissed, I'm upset, you hurt me, this, that, or the other. And that is I hate wounded, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that is a fucking toxic way of being.
Yeah.
Call that toxic femininity, call it toxic masculinity. I don't give a fuck what you want to call it. That's just terrible, terrible, terrible communication. And it's terrible emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other way is that we like face each other and then we fucking fight and we go to war and you're trying to kill the other person and you're trying to win and you're trying to one up, whether it's through experiences, through emotions, like you're literally trying to beat the other person down, fighting face to face, beating the shit out of each other, somehow thinking that if my point's proven, I'll win. If I am yelling louder than you are, if I am sharing more pain than you are, if I am throwing more shit than you are, that's just as fucking toxic, femininity, masculinity, whatever you're going to call it, as turning your fucking back, right? So when you talk about the surrender, like that word for me for a long time was like, I don't know how I feel about that. But like, I realized that when you and I get into like real interesting conflict, and we talked about this the other day, we've never really fought. We disagree a lot.
Because we don't want to fight.
We don't want to, but we solve shit so fast. But like when you and I get into that space,
we for sure disagree a lot.
We disagree all the time.
Like, that's
100%. We have a lot of disagreements. There's a lot of, what I have noticed is we don't argue. We just have really interesting waves of energy where like I'll be really hyped up and you'll need me to kind of be over here, or you'll be super hyped up, or I'll say something, it'll trigger you. And then I kind of keep pouring gas in the fire, or you go down your rabbit hole of having a pity party, and then they're like, whatever.
I love the visual.
But am I right?
You're 100% right.
See what I'm saying? So my point in saying this is when you think about surrender, right? When you think about this lady and her question of having these two alphas coming together, maybe you have an alpha and the masculine and the feminine, like the Tony Robbins thing. That woman, like, I mean, he wasn't stepping up. And so she stepped up and she had to do that for herself. But at the same time, she had her back to him. Yeah. She wasn't paying attention to him and was waiting for him to go, come in and save her, kind of a deal with the masculine. And so what I want people to really understand through this is this idea of surrender. Okay. The idea of surrender is like, I lose. And I've reframed it. And again, I'm saying this because I know there's a lot of dudes hopefully a lot of dudes listening to this, and women listening to this.
This is so important.
This is really fucking crucial. And this is coming from a quote unquote alpha guy. I've taken all the color code tests. I've taken the whole thing. I'm as red as you get.
I think everybody knows you're red, babe.
I don't think there's any fucking questioning where I am. So really hear what I'm saying here. Like, I struggled with that word surrender for a long time. And it was my own shit. It was me having to understand it and learn it. What I realize now when we talk about surrender in conflict, right? It's you and I both facing each other being like, all right, I'm done. I don't need to prove anything to you. I don't need to punch you in the face. I don't need to sell my story. I don't need to sell my pain, because that's not the game that we're playing here. And what I have found is both you and I have a very, very, very keen ability to know when we're in a place where we're either like putting our back to each other or we're trying to fight each other. And we both energetically pick that up really quick. Yeah. And we both solve it really quick. And the way that I visually see it, just guys, imagine this visual for a second. You're in conflict, right? It doesn't matter right or wrong, whether he forgot to bring home the milk, whether she's fucking, getting her nails done 86 times a day. Like any of this, it doesn't matter. It's not a right or wrong conversation. It's visually imagining two people facing each other, waving the white flag, saying, all right, I'm done trying to sell you. I'm done trying to hurt you. I'm done trying to anything. Let's connect. And that idea of surrender, it's not a win or a loss or I need to share more of my alpha or your alpha or this or the other. So this is where I disagree on the 5149. I get what you're saying, but it's like, I'm at 100 and you're at 100 and we're both at 100 to be able to know ourselves well enough to know I'm surrendering from this deal right now.
Sure.
I'm going to step back. You're going to step back. I'm waving the white flag. I'm not trying to sell you anymore. I'm not trying to pitch you my pain. I'm not trying to freaking tell you why I hurt more than you hurt, or I'm more offended than you're offended, or any of that other bullshit. It's just almost like this pause. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, wave the white flag. Let's both take a deep breath. And now let's fucking build something together.
Yeah, I love that. The percentages to me, I think it's something I visualize.
It's what works myself. For you. I get it.
It works for me as a woman, and I think it's because I have spent the majority of my partners I've been dominant over, and so with you, I realized that there's going to be times when things aren't going to go the way I want them to, because I'm the mom and I've been in charge, but now there's another person that's also in charge, and I would rather be, because I trust you and I want to build you up, I would rather be that 49%. And that's not degrading to myself. That is how I've decided to handle things. There's a lot of things that you and I will just like, and most of them are very small things. Like, you know, what we're going to do for the weekend. You want to do this. It's like, all right, like I'm good with letting you lead that. And that's where my brain goes. I want to get someone, are you guys a visual too? So you know the yin yang sign? This is literally how that is the feminine masculine. You see how they're in balance and they're in flow, right? So with you and I, when we go in these conflicts, right, is even not even in conflicts sometimes. Sometimes it's just like where you're at and where you're driving. Energy. It could be positive. Sure. It could be just energy. Women especially, we're so incredibly intuitive. If we listen, this is very clear. You will see this, you will feel this. It's one of our superpowers, is when you're in, I can feel you. And I almost have this, I literally have a visual scale of, when you're high in your masculine, I just know to stay in my feminine. It's conscious. I consciously think about this. When you're in your feminine and you're in this sweetness and you want to be held, and it's like, I know to go to my masculine. And it's not like I'm following you, but that's my superpower. Right. That's my superpower of saying like, this is where I can keep this homeostasis in this relationship.
Because it's healthy.
Balance. Yes. And it's balance. And it's, once you can visualize this, it's so incredibly beautiful. Like, I see you on such a different level. Instead of being like, oh, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? It's like, oh, this is just where you are. And I love it. I literally, on a scale of from 0 to 100, I find the balance of where you are. And I don't know if men do this. I've never been a guy. I don't know. But this, for me, that is one of my superpowers, is I can read you and stay in this flow. And it's rad because like, I love when you're in your feminine. And I know that me learning to truly show up in my feminine has encouraged that in you, which has created a bond with us and trust and safety like I've never experienced. It is by far the most freeing. I don't even know the adjectives. I love adjectives, but like, it's the most freeing, fulfilling space I've ever been in a relationship, to have that, to know that no matter where we are safe, we are seen, we are heard, we are balanced. It's incredible. So I encourage you guys to truly, read about it. Listen to podcasts like that. Practice listen
it.
To
what we're saying.
Have conversations with your partner and really, so you guys understand this vocabulary.
Right. We're not talking about rocket science. Again, this is the gospel according to Shauna Saxony. Like, take it for what it's worth. Right?
Yes, we can have our hands up our rooms.
Well, we don't, because we're, I think, very much like a lot of people, and we've both dealt with a lot of shit and had to overcome a lot of this to build what we have. But like, I realized that, you and I talked the other day about being seen and like truly being seen. And what I think a lot of people, what was missing for me is I was never safe. You were never safe, right? You were never safe to really be
really
the fullness
open,
of
blossom.
Right, correct. With the masculine and feminine. So you have this imbalance because you're trying to serve a purpose. You're trying to cover something up that not necessarily you're hiding, but you just don't feel safe, exploring or being around, right?
Yeah.
And that comes, I think, a lot through, number one, trust. But number two, being able to, I say this all the time, and I'll say this, if we do 10,000 episodes, I'll say it on every fucking episode, like getting your own house in order, like getting your shit right. Like me getting my shit right to where, this happens or that happens or, whatever it is, like I can handle my own shit. I can create my own balance. Like, I don't need you to be happy. I'm happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't need you to be super soft with me for me to be a man, or vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a really, really, really interesting dynamic when you understand yourself and you realize like you are a performer, like you are a producer. You're gonna go out and kill, right? It's something that I love and it's endearing about you. But at the same time, like, you know that I got it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I want to do, that we've connected on. And you being able to have trust, not only with me, but in yourself, saying, okay, cool, like, we're good here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And for a long time, I wasn't in that space with a female. I wasn't there, like, being able to have that trust that I could be vulnerable, that I could be, that little boy, right? Because every time I went into that little
your
boy,
sweetness, your
that
softness,
sweet, that little boy, it created scarcity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it created chaos. And so it's like being able to truly get your own shit right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not afraid of that. When you show up in that space, like when you were talking about the balance and seeing the scale of when I'm here, you go over here. It's the exact same thing. Men are the exact same way.
Yeah.
We're just more rougher on the edges because we want to just solve the fucking problem really quick, especially if it's a feminine shit. We want to just get it over with, move on, solve it, and go. But I've learned that, one of the most powerful things that I can do is surrender in that moment and realize, like, me holding that space shows you that you can be in that masculine, feminine, wherever you need to be, and be there safely, right? Because I'm not going to be moved.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
We talk about this too, like when you think about men specifically who are high performers, right? We go from a 8, 9, 10-hour workday, big deals, big money, big risk, big calculations, big leverage, high stress, high speed kind of a deal, to then coming home, right? And somehow trying to figure out how to turn it off, shut it off, be sweet, be the dad, be the husband, these things. And you find a lot of conflict in relationships there, right? Because mom's been home all day, or mom's been doing whatever she's been doing. Again, I'm just stereotyping like a stay-at-home mom and a working dad, whatever.
Yeah.
And that creates a lot of chaos and conflict, where when I walk in and like, where I'm at. I tell you the game, you know what I'm doing, what deals are on the line, what projects are happening, the whole thing. You're able to hold that space and know, okay, he's kind of wound up, masculine alpha's going freaking haywire right now. I'm just going to hold some space for a second. And then I handle my shit.
Yeah.
And it works every single fucking time.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you simmer down, quiet down, slow down, all these other things? That just tunes me up even more.
Yep.
Right? But that, I truly believe, has come by you being in a place of getting your own house in order, having your own shit taken care of.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I had the visual of us the other night. We seem to be really playful when we're half asleep. Both of us. In the mornings and at night, I was thinking about you when you were going to sleep the other night, and you were just so sweet. And I want people to really think about this. Like, do you remember when you were a child and like you were just full of joy and wonder, and you didn't carry around a lot of resentment, and you got over things really, really quickly? Like, that can still exist in adulthood. And you and I have really, really, really encouraged and embraced that side of us, because you think about Sean and Sax, and we're really driven, and we're making money, and we're this like, we have this very powerful big essence about us, but behind closed doors, not even behind closed doors, in our personal life, like, we're really, really, really childlike and playful and full of this like silly, joyful.
We're literally little kids. We
like,
really are, like, truthfully, like, we're like little kids.
And what's beautiful though is it's because we have this trust, this safety. You messaged me the other day and you sent me a text like about how you love that when I wake up and the little things that I do, and that meant a lot, because what that really was is that I feel safe being that little soft, sweet girl that I am with you. Like, I know that you and we're BFFs. Like, we have this. We don't need to have these walls and these guards up with each other, because we're on the same team. We've built such a connection and trust. And my hope truly is that all marriages can operate on this level, because it is where, when you have that, the rest of the world can be conquered. Sure. It's easy. When you have that, when you can go home and just be silly and carefree and connected and just full of love, you literally can accomplish anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's really,
yeah.
I love that.
I want to inject one other thing that we talked to this lady about. And we talked about this in a previous episode, and we've shared this multiple times with people about the 5 love languages. Without question, one of the best books. If you have not read it, get it. 5 love languages is Gary Chapman, I think is his name,
So.
who wrote it.
There's really 6 because food is one.
Whatever. Saxony has a thing with food. I do too. Fine. We're going to write a book. We're going to say the 6 love languages. We're going to say sugar. The end. Anyways, the 5 love languages.
We love cookies.
Is an amazing book. And there's a test in the 5 love languages. And it's online. It's free. And I'm sharing this for a reason because we talked to this lady about it, and I want to kind of bring this all the way home with this conversation. What's really interesting is my ex-wife gave me the 5 love languages after we got divorced. And I read it and I took the test, and there's 0 question why we got divorced. 0.
Right.
We were literally doing the exact opposite for ourselves and for each other of what our actual love languages were. Case in point, her love language was quality time. I showered her with gifts as I was coming up in the business world and I was making more money. I bought her an Escalade and I bought her shit. She could have cared less about gifts and materialistic things. And so I would give her a gift and expect her to be like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. She'd be like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then that caused me to be like, what a bitch, resentment, so on and so forth. That's not her love language. Okay. So what I'm explaining to you guys is, number 1, get the fucking book. Number 2, take the test. It's free. It's online. Now, here's the interesting thing. When you take the test and you know what your love languages are, I'm surprised how many people don't.
Yeah.
Number 1, you know your love languages. Okay. Like, you know yours. Mine are gifts, physical touch. I'm like a little dead equal between words of affirmation and physical touch and gifts, right? So that means like the things that connect to me the most are gifts. And I'm not in little teeny things like a note or a thing or a cookie is like so meaningful to me, right? Or physical touch. I mean, just literally walking by, smacking my ass, grabbing my balls, like putting your finger in my ear, kissing me, whatever. Physical touch, right? Putting your hand on my arm while I'm driving, stuff like that is extremely, extremely, extremely connecting to me, right? Now, I have to know mine, and you need to know mine, and vice versa. And what I'm finding really fascinating is when we go into a place of conflict, or when we are, just flat out and just in a relationship, we tend to serve ourselves and what we think it is that will bring this other person, our partner, joy, when the reality is we could be doing the exact fucking opposite of what it is that truly connects with them. Now, this is such an easy tool, and it's an easy task for people to do. It's like shooting fish in a barrel, right? Me knowing that your love language, one of your love languages is quality time, right? Oh, yeah. When I bought the boat, I realized that you really would probably not have had a boat on your list, or your gifts are not on your thing. However, my mindset was your deal's quality time. And I know that this boat over the next however long will be moments that we will spend together as a family, or just you and I on date night together with music playing, cocktails, sandwiches, whatever. And that's your love language. So secretly I'm like, I bought you a boat, whatever. But really, I was doing it as investing in quality time.
And you made that very clear.
I made that super clear. But what I shared with this lady, which was interesting because they had not read the 5 agreements or the 5 love languages. I'm like fucking all these books up. They hadn't, because we asked her, and that was what we told her. First off, go take the test so that you know. And one of the things that I talked to her about, because she's like, how do I connect with him? When I'm in my alpha, or when I'm in my masculine and he's in his masculine, how is it that I connect with him? Now, when we find ourselves in a place of intensity and so on and so forth, typically all of the things that work go out the window. We throw them out the window, right? We become emotional basket cases. We forget the tools. We fucking run around like a chicken with our head cut off, whatever, right? And so I used us as an example. As my love language is physical touch, and gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really funny, the moment where we're in front of 1,000 people and I'm answering this lady's question. And I said, Saxony knows, like when I'm in my space or when we go into chaos or wherever, whatever, there's two very, very, very simple things that work with me. Right.
Yes,
and
sir.
you knew what was coming and the whole crowd's like, what's he
I
gonna
was
say?
excited.
I said, Saxony knows that if she feeds me or fucks me, we're going to be fine.
Or both.
Or both. Like, give me a cookie while we're fucking, whatever. That's even better, right? But I'm being totally serious. Those are my love languages. The physical connection and the gifts. Now, everybody, of course, laughed, so on and so forth. But that is the
real.
God's honest fucking truth.
Yeah.
Like, this is something that I know that when Saxony and I are in a place of contention, chaos, just even when we're emotional, when we're in our own spaces, I have two choices. I can do it my way, or I can do it the way that works. Mm-hmm. I can do it the ego way, which serves me, but doesn't really serve me, right? Or I can say, your love languages are quality time, the words of affirmation, physical touch. Mm-hmm. I can now invest in these things to help remedy this scenario, bring us together instead of being back to back or fighting with each other. I can invest in these things. And this is something that everybody kind of laughed at, but I think we made a really strong impact on them when you shared, look, like we can be in chaos. And I know that if I go over to Sean and I fuck him, like it sounds really funny. People laugh, haha, that's funny. But that literally bridges the entire fucking gap and diffuses the bomb.
I want to say too is it's almost like it stops a brain pattern. And I always go to this stuff I know, but it almost stops a brain pattern that if you're in this like mode and I come up and I start being affectionate.
Yes.
And it's not like I just like rip my clothes off and like we go to Pound Town.
Could do.
But sometimes
we do.
But it's like it's like that soft and I kiss you and I hug you and I tickle you or whatever that is working, and then I start doing other things that totally take your mind in a new direction. I know that derails you from that conflict. It's almost like it's like a little kid, they're in some type of like situation when they're all in distress, and you kind of like take them out of the distress, and then immediately you're like, oh, forget. It's really that simple.
It's that simple. But there's people that are listening to this right now, and I guarantee you they'll be like, whoa, that's all you're doing is masking the problem, or you're just avoiding. No, you're not understanding. When you're talking about being in an emotionally disconnected place, it might not be an argument. It might not be, I did something wrong, you did something wrong. No, this could
be an external
It could
world
just
thing.
be, I'm having a shitty fucking day. Energetically, I'm not there. I'm acting like kind of a dick. I don't need to talk it all out because I don't know what it is. I'm just not there, or you're not there, right? It doesn't have to be a fucking State of the Union address every single time.
God, no.
Something literally as simple as, here's a cookie, here's a cigar, go for a drive, fuck off. And I'm like, thank you.
I literally will drive to the cookie shop all the time, guys. This is not
fucking love cookies.
I wish this is not an exaggeration, but it's not. I will go and get cookies and I'll bring them home knowing that you literally are like, oh.
Yeah, it literally bridges that gap. And I'm sharing this with y'all because the masculine and the feminine are really, really, really cool.
Yeah.
They're dark, they're light, they're really, I'm 42 years old and I'm still trying to figure this shit out. Mm-hmm. I'm learning something new every single day.
You're very human.
As is every single person listening to this. But there are really, really, really simple ways to bridge the gap together as a couple. There are really simple ways to not overlook contention or overlook problems or avoid shit, but realize in a moment, like, he's just having a bad day, or I'm just having a bad day. If I go over there and fucking pull his pants down, we're good. And it's not an ego thing of like, well, I'm in a, or I'm looking at you saying, well, she was kind of a bitch to me earlier, and I'm not going to go do these things, because that's literally the exact same as you and I, or me turning my back, folding my arms and saying, I'm just going to be a little bitch sitting over here in my corner throwing a pity party. I have the tools. I know what works.
Right. And I don't want people to take this and think, oh, well, you're just like, you just, have sex with your man and there's this like, it's some type of negative. Like I know that I have back to superpower. We have lots
of sex. In that space, out of that space,
right.
In all the spaces.
In all the spaces.
Yeah.
I love the fact that that's part of the beautiful part about being in a committed union with another partner is like, sex is a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish more people talked about it. I wish more people were open about it. I wish more people had lots and lots and lots more sex with each other.
Yeah.
Please, make it a point to like embrace sexuality in your life. Please do it. It's a wonderful
We're
thing.
going to talk a lot more about sex.
Yeah. And so to me, it's like, it's not degrading to me to be like, okay, like this is where I can do this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I love to do that. I love to show up. I love to be of service all
Mm-hmm.
the time. If it means making food, having sex, and no, it's like I'm serving you because I'm certainly serving myself as well. But
you're welcome, dear.
What was cool is another guy. This became such a big question at the event that another guy, he held his hand up and he said, well, okay, well, if that's what Sean needs, then what do you need? And
Mm-hmm.
of course, I quickly said, well, I love sex and food.
You literally said, well, he could feed me and fuck me too, and we'll be fine.
We'd be good.
And everybody was dying
Right.
laughing. But it's true because your love languages,
Yeah.
right? And your connection, your ability to just sit with me, talk, have me come over and hold you, hug you for even 30 seconds, just standing there, grab your ass, just physical touch,
But
the quality time.
I want to speak truly to the majority of women. And I've met a few women in my life, talked to a few women in my life a lot. And women really want, and I told them this, I said, I don't know if many women will disagree with this. When we're in a state of conflict, if it's external, if it's with you or whatever, like women want to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be seen. We don't even need to be understood. And we don't, honestly, guys, I don't expect you to understand me. Here's an example. I was working through some fears and I would come to you and I would say, blah, 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 and men, you're so you guys have this beautiful superpower of wanting to fix things and being able to fix things. Like that's a really cool quality. But there's a snag in it where when women show up and they want to spill all of these words and all of these things, we're not actually seeking to be fixed. We're seeking to be heard, which reinforces that trust, reinforces that safety net, right? So we kind of did both. Or at first, in some of these things where I would come to you and I'm just like, bleh, you would come back and try to be like, well, what is this? And you would try to you were making answers or saying, why don't you just do this?
Trying to solve the problem.
And
I was trying to fix things.
And I told you, I said, no, I just want you to help me navigate this. And truly women are going to do it on their own. Like we're good. We're amazing multitaskers. We're amazing problem solvers. I just wanted you to hold space for me and hear me. Mm-hmm. I wanted to feel heard and feel seen. And all that did was reinforce that I'm capable and I can do it, right? And you literally didn't have to give me any advice. So when we had part of that conversation one day go this way, and then you were very quick to say, oh shit, like I really just need to shut the fuck up and listen to you. And then when I brought it again, because I was, this was a couple months of the same thing I was working through, is you just held space and let me almost like just release it.
Yeah.
Women love that, guys. And I know, and there were so many guys in the audience, they're like, oh, I'm trying to fix it. And then this other guy brought up his girlfriend and her business. And he's like, how do I show up for her? And I'm like, just be your cheerleader. Yep. Like, you don't need to be the one making all the decisions, and just reinforce that she's got it. We just want to feel that we've been seen and heard. It's a powerful thing, guys. And it really is it's very low effort. Like you could just sit there and go, awesome. I'm so glad you're sharing this with me. Cool. Thank you. And you don't have to understand anything that she's actually talking about. Yeah. She'd be talking about whatever. And you're like, okay, I got you. You've got this. I love you.
The thing that's funny is it's the same thing with guys. I mean, there's days I come home where I'm like I don't need you to solve my problems or tell me which direction to go or which deal to do or not do or whatever else. It's like, let me just dump my shit out here for 5 minutes and then we'll be good.
Yeah.
Right. But that's, I think, what's really, really powerful and really cool about not only this conversation, but just understanding the masculine and the feminine and understanding the alphas. It's like, it's inside of all of us.
Yeah.
It's inside of all of us. Like every single woman has masculinity and femininity. Every single man has masculinity and femininity. Yeah. Somebody made a comment on one of my posts the other day, like where I was kind of on a rant, just like handle your shit, da, da, da. And she said, there's a lot of the positivity that you share and a lot of the go get 'em attitude, but where does emotions and crying fit in to all of this? Mm-hmm. Kind of expecting me to be like, whatever. And everyone's like, one of the most gangster things that you can do, one of the most powerful things you can do is cry.
Yeah.
And it was like, no one was expecting me to say that because everybody has this notion that we just run a million miles an hour and punch everything in front of us and burn everything to the ground. And it's like, I cry a lot. I get emotional a lot. And that's real. You know what I mean? That's very, very, very real. But when I'm in that space, you're not like, oh my God, the world's going to end. We're not going to pay the bills. We don't have any food. Da, da, da. It's like, no, I'm going to stay in my space. You be in your space. And I think what's really, really, really cool about this conversation is I dislike the word toxic because it's thrown around so heavily now. But there are people that are in really unhealthy masculine spaces.
Very wounded space.
And there are people that are in really unhealthy feminine spaces, and almost using that very much as a victim, as a crutch in staying in that space. Women who are just bitterly angry about their past, about being lied to, cheated on, who are just as hard ass gets, blaming men why they can't find love because, blah, 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 blah. But the truth is you're just like fucking wounded as shit. And dudes that are just total freaking soy boys, who never want to stand up and own who the fuck they really are and own what they really want and own, where they want to plant their flag in life, regardless of what the woman says, regardless of what the woman, agrees with or disagrees with. And I think it's a very, very, very powerful conversation for people to have with themselves, with their partner, yes, but with themselves first, of like, where do I find that power? What is that power? Where am I healthy? Where am I not healthy? You know what I mean? And I love the fact that I can be a little boy in one moment and then turn around and cut somebody's fucking face off the next. And you're just like, cool. Yeah. Go do you, man.
It's same with me. Like I can go to war. I can sling a sword. Like I'm easily comfortable with that. But I'm also very well balanced in the fact that I can be very soft and a very, kind mother and very gentle and very nurturing. And it's cool because like there's a place for all of it. There's a reason that we all have both energies, and there's a lot of power in that. And right now you see there's such an imbalance of, women have become so much more masculine and men have become so much more feminine, and it's out of balance in a way that I don't feel like many people are thriving. And that's why if you look around in the marketplace, there's all these men's groups that have been established, which I think are doing great work. Like, My Soul Sheep Experience is one of them, really bringing men back to this state of like being men, and not in an arrogant, like, oh, we're going to, we're going to take over the whatever. It's being this man where women can really feel safe and really surrender, and like feminine energy. When a woman is in a full-blown, this divine feminine, it is a spectacular thing to witness. There's nothing more powerful than a woman in that space. And I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and I will say that I love that feminine, and I encourage more men to get to a place where healing their wounded, if it's their wounded feminine, wounded masculine, and finding this, was making it cohesive, where it's we're all winning, like we're all thriving in both, in balance, in a healthy way. It's so easy, but you've got to have that awareness to what your actions are and why they're happening.
Goes back to what you and I constantly say, what we continue to say, is get your house in order.
Get your house in order.
Get your own house in order. When my house is in order, our house works. When your house is in order, our house works.
Correct.
And when we're both vibing and flowing in that reality, it's a pretty fucking cool thing.
I want to say something. We were driving home from the gym yesterday, and I like looked in the rear view, and I looked at you and I said, babe, we're driving to the gym, or from the gym, in a Lamborghini. I'm like, huh. And I looked at you and I thought, I'm so glad that I'm in a place where I've done so much work to where I can look at this car as an accomplishment. And I can just be so full of gratitude that you were what you've worked for, and then you rewarded yourself, and you've got this car, right? And I just thought, I love that there's no part of me that's like, oh, but how are we going to pay the bills? Are we sure we can afford it? And this whole like scarcity thing, which is really common. I mean,
Mhm.
I grew up around that type of
Right.
thing, like backseat driver wife and all these things. It's like, no, I'm so proud that you and I have this type of relationship where I'm like, you worked hard for this, and all I want to do is celebrate your wins, as I know you've got it. We have so much trust. We have so much open communication. We work on this balance of rules and everything, and it's like, fuck yeah, babe.
Hmm.
Good job.
Good job.
Good job, babe.
Plus, it's fast and you like it. And it's really cool.
It's
All right, guys. We appreciate you. Masculine, feminine. Again, the book that we referenced is The 5 Love Languages. Go get it. We also talked about Don Miguel Ruiz, 4 Agreements. Go get that
We're gonna
too.
talk about those.
Those
all
are
the
like
time.
those are like the Bible.
They
Real
are.
talk. Those are literally, those 2 books will change your life. Truly
Mhm.
change your life in a radical way. So,
Yeah,
anyways,
I agree.
any final thoughts, babe?
Nope. I love this topic.
Good conversation. We're
Love
gonna
it,
talk about
love
this
it.
more. This is what I love about the podcast too. Is like these conversations we could talk for hours and hours and hours and hours about. And I feel like we're just going to kind of keep circling through some of these conversations that keep popping up in our world and our life as
Mhm.
we're experiencing them, and it's cool because there's like no bottom.
No,
to-
and we're
to the
here
rabbit
real
hole.
time with you guys.
You know what I mean?
We literally take what's happening with us
Yeah, what
in
we're
real time.
experiencing.
and share
All right,
with you.
guys. Thank you for listening. Please like, please comment, please share. We really, 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 truly appreciate seeing you guys' feedback and messaging us on Instagram and Facebook. Go follow our Facebook page.
Mhm.
And if you got some nuggets out of this, or you feel like there's somebody that needs to hear this, feel free to share it with them.
Yeah.
We appreciate you. Love you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Talk to
Yes.
you later.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.